Welcome everyone for today's study. Spiritism Inspiring Lives. Let's start our meeting with our introspection or reflections, helping us to harmonize our minds, our hearts, the focus from the external experiences of today, and bringing our attention to our inner self. Learning to observe us as immortal beings as we all are, spirits. Beings essentially of goodness and love. Learners of ourselves and the universe. And today with this possibility to learn a bit more about the universal laws that govern us all, either for us who are in the flesh, and all of those who are without the physical body, but also are immortal beings, and also are guided by the universal code that guides us all, which is love that comes from God. Starting this meeting, expressing our gratitude for all the experiences that we perceive as good, that we perceive as bad, because on the end of the day, all the experiences are invitations for us to get to know who we are, for us to learn more about ourselves, for us to perceive our strengths and shadows and weak points, and actualize ourselves constantly with the universal code of evolution, which is love. And in that way that we are gathering together, connected with our hearts as learners, we start this study today. And today, within Spiritism Inspiring Lives, we'll be learning a bit more about the theme, God, Spirit, and Matter. And to facilitate this theme for us, we invite Cintia Coutinho, who will be presenting this theme for us. Welcome, Cintia.
Matter, the meaning of God, the existence of God, its characteristics, spirits, and the relationship between God, spirit, and matter. Our reflections will be based on two books of the Spiritist codification, which is the Spirit's book, the very first one, and a book called Genesis, both by Allan Kardec. So to begin with, we might ask ourselves from time to time, or might wonder, does God exist? If so, what is it? What keeps a certain level of order in the universe? We might come across, or we might have these questions in mind, and this is what Kardec asked the spirits at question number 5 of the Spirit's book, the one we mentioned before. Kardec points out that we seem to be born with an intuition or a sentiment that something superior to us exists, and we call it God. So we are born with this sentiment or this feeling that there is a God or something exists. So what is it? What can we conclude from this? And it's explained to us that we can conclude that God exists. We know also from information given to us in the Spirit's book that we are born with the laws of God in our conscience. And the more we evolve as a spirit, the more we dematerialize, the more we get in contact with these laws. So in the same way, this sentiment or this feeling, this intuition we have that God exists is those laws in a, let's say, in a latent state, back in our mind or back in our soul or back in our conscience. It's there. We know that God exists. We can't fully comprehend this idea, but we know we have this sentiment. We're born with it. But we could also think in a different spectrum. Okay, but couldn't this idea we have, instead of being something we're born with, couldn't this be the result of acquired knowledge or education we have received? couldn't we have this sentiment or this reference or this idea because we were educated to believe in this way? It's interesting that Kardec is asking that or is questioning about it, because the spirits explain that it wouldn't be the case, because we see in the very primitive cultures this need or this culture to worship God, or to recognize that there is a supreme intelligence, or there is something above us that is looking after the universe. So we can see that even primitive cultures recognize that there is something above us, that is not us, like beings, human beings, but it's something more, something that we worship, something that we recognize as powerful and as something that keeps the order in the universe. And if we go back now to the very first question at the beginning of the Spirit's book, Kardec asked the spirits, what is God? And the spirits tell us that God is the supreme intelligence of the universe, is the primary cause of everything that exists. God is the starting point of everything. We can understand from this that although we may have from education the idea that God is a superior being in heaven, sitting in a throne, judging us, punishing us, the Spiritism presents us a different idea, presents us a God that is the supreme intelligence, a God that is the primary causes of everything, a God that created everything and created laws that helps us to evolve, let's say in the moral aspect, but also laws that govern all the material aspects of the universe, material aspects of the planet Earth where we live, but also all the other planets, all the other solar systems, or everything else that exists in the universe that might be beyond our comprehension. So it is interesting for us to keep that in mind. So God is the supreme intelligence. It's a good reference point. And we can also say, okay, but we know that God exists. We might come to this understanding that God exists. It might not be the result of these acquired ideas. And we know that our knowledge about God, what we comprehend about it, is very limited. But how can we make an idea of what is God? And it's presented to us 7 characteristics, or 7 adjectives, if I might put this way. I would say 7 characteristics of God that we can use to help us to better understand what God is at this level of evolution that we are. We can start with God being one. For a long time, we worshipped and we believed that there were more than one God in the universe. And we were in contact with cultures, even civilized cultures, that worshipped water or the rain, or different aspects of nature, or different things in nature as being gods. And we understand, not just with Spiritism, but other schools of thought came to the understanding that God is one. God is a supreme being, but there is only one God. And it's an interesting point for us to reflect as well, because God being one, it means we are all brothers and sisters. So God created us all. There is only one Father, as Jesus put it. So it helps us also to strengthen our fraternity, because we know that we don't need to be fighting each other anymore to see which God is better, or my God is better than your God, because there is only one. Another characteristic is that God is eternal. It had no beginning and obviously no end, and it links to the next one, infinite. God is also immutable. It is not subject to change. What changes is our understanding about its laws. We grasp God's laws, but in a very perhaps immature and incomplete state. So the more we learn and the more we evolve, the more we learn about the laws of God. And what changes is our understanding, but not the laws per se. The laws will always be the same. God will always be the same. What is in constant changing and evolution is our understanding of it. God is also all-powerful, which is, you could also say that it's linked to God being one. God is one, and He is all-powerful. He is the supreme intelligence of the universe, keeping everything in order. God is immaterial. We mentioned it briefly, that God is not similar to us in any aspects, that God is not angry and then punishes us. It doesn't participate in all these, let's say, soup of feelings that we have or characteristic that belongs to us. God is the supreme intelligence, the perfection. He is immaterial and supremely just and good. So we see God as just because His laws are the same for everyone. Nobody has a advantage, and it's the same. It works for everyone, and it's applied to everyone to the same degree. And when we think of God as being good, it means that God is merciful, and all the laws created by Him is to help us to evolve. It's to help us to promote ourselves once we get used to all of them. So to summarize, God is one, eternal, infinite, immutable, all-powerful, immaterial, supremely just and good. And it's not, as we mentioned before, due to our level of evolution, it's not possible for us yet to fully comprehend God and its nature. We still lack the senses or the intelligence to fully comprehend it. We see also in question 100 of the Spirit's book, there is the Spirit hierarchy. Once we evolve, go through all the experiences we have to dematerialize ourselves, the more knowledge we gain, the better we will understand God, and the better will be our relationship with Him. We see our great example, which is Jesus, and He constantly said that He and God were one, in the sense that He got to the point where He fully comprehends God, live its laws, and has a close proximity or close relationship with God, which is our aim, and which is why He came to earth to teach us to learn to be in this constant loving relationship with God. And moving on now to our discussion and thoughts today, there's a very interesting question for our understanding the Spirit's book, where Kardec asked the Spirits, so basically we know that there is God. Could we also say that in the universe there are just these two general elements, spirit and matter? So above everything we have God, and then spirit and matter. And the Spirits point out that yes, this is the case. We have God, which was the starting point of everything, as we have seen before. God created a spirit, which are us, immortal beings, and also created matter, which is the instrument of the Spirit. Matter is what the Spirit uses to develop the skills it lacks, to develop all these laws we have within. And they call it the universal Trinity, God, Spirit, and matter. And it's important for us to understand it so we can expand our knowledge about the relationship between spirit and matter. Between the spirit and matter, if we think of matter as the physical body, there is also this bare spirit, and there is also the universal fluid, but we won't be talking much about it today because of the time. So to begin with, if we reflect a little bit about the Spirit, it is Kardec asked the Spirits, what is the Spirit? And we learn that the spirit is the intelligent principle of the universe, meaning that we're different from matter. The spirit has intelligence, and this is sometimes in the primitive state, because we were born simple and ignorant, but we have this in a latent state, and we have the means to develop it, to develop our intelligence. And when we talk about the nature of this spirit, it is explained to us that spirit is not nothing, because nothing, if it was nothing, it wouldn't exist, but it's not similar to our physical body. It's distinct from it. It is some sort of, not sure if it's matter, but it's some sort of, it exists in some sort of form, but it's not the physical body. They are distinct from each other. And again, to clarify, make sure we understand it, it's asked once more in question 76, how can we define a spirit? And once more, we can say that spirits are the intelligent beings of the creation, and they populate the universe beyond the material world. So we are spirits at the moment, incarnate in a physical body, living on earth for us to acquire the skills we lack. But once this existence is finished, we go back to the spiritual world. This is where we came from, and this is our, let's say, our start point. And life here on earth is only temporary. The real life of the spirit is in the spiritual world. We can also think, okay, it's explained to us that the spirit is this intelligent being of the creation, but can we say that spirit is the same as intelligence? And in the same way that we learned about the characteristics of God, intelligence is one attribute of the spirit, is one characteristic of the spirit. It is they merge into a common principle, but they are not the same thing. So we can say that intelligence, like justice and goodness, and in being mutable, was one of the characteristics of God. Being intelligent is one of the characteristics of the spirits, distinct from matter. And once in the book Genesis is also, we can also learn that when we are born, when we are created by God, we have those faculties, like we discussed before. We have those faculties in a rudimentary state at first. We're born, and we can see these in the very primitive states. We lack the knowledge, for example, to do the basic things that if we compare it to the level of knowledge we have access to today. So everything is done in a very primitive way, because we are in the first stages of evolution of our thought. And once in contact with matter, we need to take care of ourselves, we need to take care of the necessities of the body. And in this way, we prime our intelligence, we develop our intelligence, we find ways, better ways to do things every single day. So this rudimentary intelligence is better, we better it, we improve it. And this is the meaning, or this is the rationale behind reincarnation. This is the rationale behind the necessity of us coming to earth many times. This is the rationale behind the need for us to being here on earth, for us to reincarnate, to develop all these faculties we have in the latent state, all these potentialities we bring within our soul. Moving on now, that we know that the spirit is the intelligent being of the universe, but it needs the physical body to progress, to learn. Once it reincarnates several times, and each time it acquires a different knowledge, it grows and it dematerializes. And when we are reincarnated, when we are here in the physical body, due to the how can I say, due to the matter which is our bodies made of, we have this influence of the matter. Although the spirit is always above matter, we still have this influence of the matter, or the vicissitudes of the matter. But the purpose of us being here is to overcome it, is to teach and to build our inner strength to overcome all these vicissitudes of matter. And interesting to point out as well that we are here, we have this physical body, but it's only for a limited period of time. Once this physical body is no longer functional, once life ceases to exist, it will decompose and the spirit will carry on living in a different realm, in a different state. It goes back to the spiritual world, awaiting a new reincarnation. And it's interesting how Kardec compares it. He says it's like the spirit leaves the physical body as one leaves a house that is in ruins or clothes that are worn out. It's a natural process. We had the body, we went through the experiences, life is finished, or existence is finished, and we no longer need it, then we move on. And we might think, okay, does the spirit finishes with the physical body once it stops to be functional and decomposes? And then question 8.3 is not the whole answer, but we can go there and we can check if we want to broaden our knowledge. But Kardec asked the spirits, do spirits have an end? And we learn that differently from the physical body, we, immortal spirits, we do not have an end. What ceases to exist is the physical body because it has an expiry date, if we can put it this way. We were born, we had a limited time here on earth in this physical body, but once this finishes, the spirit continues to live. And it's an interesting point for us to reflect about, because sometimes the trials or the experiences we go through here while on earth might seem unbearable or might seem very challenging, and we might consider finishing the existence, or we might want to give up. But we learn that because we do not have an end as immortal spirits, suicide or giving up is never the answer, because we will continue to live. And what we didn't do here now, we will have to do in another opportunity. But the invitation is for us to continue to seek for help if we need to, but always bear in mind that we will never cease to exist. So finishing or giving up or finishing the life is never the answer, because we as spirits, we will never have an end. We will never cease to exist. And this is something good as well, because the more we evolve, the more we acquire those skills, the better we can use them to help others, to promote ourselves, but also to help others. And this is what gives meaning to life, to being useful, to being helpful. And once life on the planet or the physical body ceases to exist, once we go back to the spiritual world, we will have the chance or the opportunity to think about what we did while we were here, what like the goals we had, if we managed to accomplish everything we wanted to. Before we reincarnate, there's always a plan for us, a set of tasks or missions we have to go through, we choose to go through to help us. So once we finish here, it's like school. We can see how well we did in the test, if we managed to acquire all the knowledge we needed to, if we passed all the tests, basically. So this is a kind of, we have this assessment, this time to assess the experiences we went through, how much of it we really conquered. and we can plan. We also have the opportunity to plan the next existences with our spiritual benefactors that are always there to help us. We have this time to reconsider, to reflect, to make new plans. So it's nice to know that we have all this available to us. We have as many opportunities as we need to evolve at our disposition, but obviously we want to make the most of what is given to us now. And if we move on now to the subject of matter, it is asked to the spirits about its definition. We know matter when we study here on earth, or for the knowledge we have so far, that we can define matter as to what has extension, that can impress our senses, and that is impenetrable. And Kardec asked the spirits, is that it? Is this what matter is? And the spirits very kindly points to us that yes, from your own point of view, that is correct, because we can only relate to what we know. But we have to keep an open mind and be flexible, because there is matter in the universe in states that are unfamiliar to us. We can see a lot of research nowadays in the subject. We coming to conclusions. We seeing matter in different states from when the book was written in the 1800s. We evolved a lot in the subject, but I think we still need to keep an open mind, because we may not know all the states in which we can consider matter as being matter. And to clarify, Kardec asked the spirits, then how may we define matter? And it's interesting when they say matter is the tie that unchains the spirit. It is the instrument the spirit uses and upon which it simultaneously exerts its action. So if we go back to the spiritual trinity at the beginning of the presentation, when we learned that there was God above everything, then in its creation is spirit and matter. We learn that the spirit needs to use matter to evolve. We learn that matter is the instrument of the spirit, and the spirit, in contact with matter, it develops its potentialities. So we learn that matter, there is spirit and matter in the universe. Matter exists in states that we cannot fully comprehend yet. And also matter is the instrument of the spirit, is what the spirit uses to evolve. And it's interesting for us, we mentioned it many times, but it's interesting for us to point out that matter and intelligence are distinct. We, for a long time, believed that we were not more than the physical body. We did not recognize the existence of the spirit, but we know that there is a lot of research going on today that is very close to find out that we're not just this physical body. We are more than that. We are spiritual beings with a physical body. We are above matter. And it's interesting to point out that matter and spirit are not the same thing. We are the intelligence dominating matter, and the more we evolve morally and intellectually, better will be our relationship with matter. Another very interesting point brought by Kardec in the book Genesis is that throughout our evolution process, we dematerialize the spirit. We purify it. For example, we might be very angry, or we might bring anger as one very strong characteristic of our being. But the invitation, once we come back to earth, might, in a new existence, might be for us to learn the opposite, to learn to be fraternal, to learn to educate our anger. And the more we live according to God's laws, which is Could be related to being humble, being kind, being fraternal, being patient, being responsible, having discipline, all of it. The more we get used to those virtues or to those principles, ethical and moral principles, the more we dematerialize ourselves. As the great example we have, Jesus came here to teach. Forgiving, helping, being useful. This is what helps us in our evolution, our process of evolution, to dematerialize ourselves. We do have our free will, however, which is another point that we can have to take into consideration. This process of dematerialization will be on us. It will depend on our free will. The more we educate our free will, and the more, let's say, we push ourselves to better, to improve ourselves, the quicker we will get to this point. But we can also choose, and we could say that this is the default, we all can also choose to be stagnated. And this is where we create those states of suffering, where everything seems to be stagnated, life seems to be not flowing, and we could reflect that this could be because of our choices. We have free will, we're not forced to do anything, but we'll have to bear the consequences of our actions. The better choices we make, the better the consequences we have. But when we talk about this process of evolution, we have to go through the path of ignorance, but not necessarily the path of evil. We have this state that we have no knowledge, but we can use our free will to search for this knowledge, to have a purpose in life, to be a better person. And the quicker we go through this process of dematerialization, the quicker we go to this process of, let's say, purification of our faculties, of our skills, of our potentialities, of our soul, and the greater will be our happiness, because they are related. Happiness is the result, as Kardec says here, the result of the progress a spirit has accomplished. Happiness is the result of our progress, moral and intellectual. The more we manage, for example, to be responsible, the more we manage to overcome our bad tendencies, the greater will be our happiness.
Thank you very much indeed, Cintia, for your cooperation in facilitating this theme today for all of us, bringing these reflections about God, about the Spirit, about matter, as immortal beings as we all are. And as we are coming to the end of this meeting today, let's give thanks for our existences. Give thanks for Spiritism in our existences that explains the natural laws in the universe, that helps us to understand that we are three-dimensional beings, spirits, our astral body, and our physical body. And then we are constantly inhibiting ourselves through our tendencies, through our values, through our likes, through our dislikes. And we are in the school earth in order to promote ourselves, to become better beings, with more understanding, with more knowledge, with more competence to administrate our inner world in terms of emotions, in terms of thoughts. We also give thanks for our parents who were the instruments that allowed us to be here once more in this beautiful school earth. We give thanks for all of those who are sharing our existences in these short moments, which is one existence, which is given by God to every one of us. We also give thanks for our physical bodies. We give thanks for our families. We give thanks for our friends, our works, our noble activities that we all choose to carry out. We give thanks for the air that we breathe, for the rain, for the sun, for the wind. And as we are finalizing, let's also think about all of those who are suffering on earth, especially those who are facing wars. And may our hearts reach out towards them in terms of prayers, which are feelings of brotherhood, of fraternity, wishing them peace in their hearts, in their minds. And also asking that the creator of everything and everyone, which is God, may bless all of them through his love, and all of us who are still learning, either on earth or beyond it. And also we give thanks for us to be alive, and also learning to value all existences, understanding that our challenges are experiences that we attract in order to promote our spiritual intelligence. And in that way, we are coming to the end and conclude our meeting today, wishing peace to all of you, and always trusting in goodness, in love, in forgiveness. Much peace to all. Bye-bye.